Oh, I'm sorry. Did I break your concentration?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, what would happen if your mobile phone killed you?
We are tonight's entertainment.
I would rather watch Beautician and the Beast.
People don't forget.
And here we go.
Made for movies.
This is the Made for Movies podcast. I am your host, Eric Russo, and with me again, as always, on this wonderful Monday, Mr. Aaron Wolf. Say hello to the people.
Hello, people. How are you?
Pretty busy day for us today. Got some action-packed box office update, as always. A little stroll back through memory lane at an old movie that me and Wolf both adore. And then we are going to do our top 5 stories, as well as our recap of Loki Episode 2. Are you ready, as Triple H would say?
I think Hunter Hearst Helmsley, anytime on a Monday Night Raw. Lots of ways we could go with this joke, but yes, I am definitely ready. And no, I'm not going to be degeneration Xing sucking it, so don't even go there, buddy.
Well, then I got 2 words for you. Minority Report came out 19 years ago today. Wow, what a movie. Directed by Steven Spielberg, starring Tom Cruise, and some people forget, also starring Colin Farrell. Wolf, what do you think of this wonderful 19-year-old futuristic crime thriller?
I seriously forget every time that it's directed by Steven Spielberg. I think that's probably one of the most amazing attributes of this movie, and it doesn't feel like a Spielberg movie to me when I watch it. It's not like funny like interludes with John Williams music played over it. Like none of that's happening really too much in Minority Report. But talk about an interesting concept, future crime. You know, no one can get enough of that. And obviously Tom Cruise getting involved in anything crime related is pretty funny because he seems to be a crazy psycho weirdo. So fits right in. And definitely a movie that's rewatchable because it's about the future, and we're even 19 years from the movie's release. We're still not even close to the technology that shows in Minority Report, which I think takes place in about 2020, if I'm not mistaken.
2054.
Oh, okay. So
we got a
ways to go. But yeah, great movie, rewatchable, love it.
Yeah, I am a big fan. This is the movie, you know, when you see it as a kid, you're like, this is the greatest movie I've ever seen. No, it does hold up fairly well. The things that don't work for me are going to be more of the futuristic stuff you're talking about. Some of it's pretty realistic, especially with the ads when they walk by any ad and it directly talks to them. I feel like my phone already does that, so that we're a little bit ahead of schedule on that. But yeah, you're right. It does not feel like a Spielberg movie to me. It feels like a Tom Cruise movie, which, you know, Spielberg would go on to do War of the Worlds with Tom Cruise, which also does not feel like a Spielberg movie. It feels like a Tom Cruise movie. So I think there's a reason that he stopped using Tom Cruise. This is like pre-Tom Cruise going crazy, but a very fun movie nonetheless. And yeah, let's make a sequel to Minority Report. Why not?
I would love to see it.
Bring it
for
back.
Sure.
I'm actually shocked. I'm sure if there's not already plans, this has TV series written all over it, like not with Tom Cruise, just like a generic cop. Like
Agents of Marvel.
Yeah. Law and Order, SVU with
Minority Report.
Yeah.
Yes. That would be perfect.
So there's your idea. Steal it from us. It'll make $1 billion. Let's move into our always fun box office update. We got a couple doozies. I know your favorite movie coming out this summer was The Hitman's Wife's Bodyguard. I think I'm saying that right. That actually was number 1 at the box office with $10.2 million. Keep in mind, the first one made $20 million, so only about half of what the first one made. In second place, we have one of your favorites, Quiet Place 2, $8.72 million. Only dropped 27% from last weekend, so holding on very tight. Third place goes to Peter Rabbit 2, $6.72 million. Fourth place, Cruella again, $4.5 million. And in fifth place and dropping like a stone, In the Heights, $4.3 million, a 73% drop from opening weekend. Also, one note with this, it was watched by approximately 600,000 people on HBO Max, which is 1/3 of the Snyder Cut and about 1/8 of Godzilla vs. Kong. So this one is getting absolutely slaughtered. I guess people do not care about musicals in the summertime. I don't know what else, but any thoughts on this list?
Yeah, it's back to the numbers that we've been seeing and expecting from some of these movies that maybe should have been just released on HBO Max and called it a day, like The Hitman's Bodyguard's son's future cousin's former roommate's bodyguard. I think it's going to be a horrible movie any way you look at it. No matter how much Ryan Reynolds or Samuel L. are sharing the screen, it just can't beat the bad writing and bad stories and everything like that. Sad about In the Heights. Not surprised about many of the others, though. Quiet Place kind of losing its steam, I think. But overall, still a good movie, and everyone should go see it. So, of any on the list, definitely check it out. And I think we'll be going to see Cruella at some point here soon because we've heard it's pretty good. So,
yeah,
never know.
Probably watch that on Disney Plus once it's free. And they did green light Cruella 2. That's some news we won't be covering.
Wow.
But I don't think it ever comes out because this movie did not make a lot of money. But yeah, that's really all my thoughts. I'm with you. It's kind of funny. So The Hitman's Bodyguard, I think is the first one, had a budget of $30 million. So, like, Ryan Reynolds, I don't know why he wouldn't do Mortal Kombat 2 at that point. Like, I assume that he's getting $20 million per movie, but that's clearly not the case with some of these other movies. And I really don't know how much of a draw he is outside of Deadpool. So we will see. He does have that Free Guy movie coming out where he's like trapped in the video game. Looks pretty cool. Also looks like it's not going to make a lot of money. So we shall see. Let's move on unless you have any other comments about Ryan Reynolds or his wife.
I'm actually looking forward to that Free Guy movie. It looks funny.
Yeah, it's a good concept.
It looks like it cost a lot of money.
Yes, it does. And it looks like it will have to make a lot of money. So we shall see. But let's move into our top 5 news stories of the week. We start at number 5 with one of our personal favorite actors. Mr. Nicolas Cage has a new movie coming out called Pig. In that movie, he has a pig, and it is stolen from him, and he must go on a quest to get the pig back. Wolf, what did you think of the trailer? And is this the craziest concept for a Nick Cage movie you have seen yet?
The trailer, I have to say, was like masterfully done.
Yes.
It's like it's got the perfect like music. It's creepy. It's intriguing. You don't quite know like too much of the backstory. It seems like Nicolas Cage was a world famous chef at one point, and now he is a bearded hobo living in the woods like Ted Kaczynski. My mind went all over the place, and I have to say this might be the craziest Nicolas Cage concept of all time because like. Yeah, like Face Off is amazing, and he's insane in that movie. And there's some other ones that have come out, you know, like Mandy and things like that more recently that are like, whew, this guy is definitely living on the edge of something. We don't know what, but he's out there. And in this one, I honestly think pigs don't get their due. It's almost like a John Wick idea where, you know, he's in love with this dog, but it happens to be a pig. There's so many things this could end up being, and looks like they might throw a little action in there. So I'm definitely interested and intrigued, and I will watch this 100% of the time. Could be very interesting. Yes,
I was on the same boat with you. When I saw it advertised, I had really big John Wick vibes, but after watching the trailer, it looks nothing like that movie. Like you said, it maintains a very serious tone. But I laughed at least 4 times in the trailer.
Absolutely.
Anytime he says pig, I can't help but laugh.
Where's my pig?
But it looks very artistic, and it looks like it's going to be a very great performance from him. As far as his craziest, yes, it's up there. I know he just had that movie come out. I have not watched it yet. Willy's Wonderland, where he's trapped in a warehouse with toys coming to life, and he has to fight for his survival. So that's right up there as well. It seems each one gets better. He's like the acid-induced version of Liam Neeson. How Liam Neeson only stars in like rescue mission movies. Nick Cage only stars in the weirdest movies in the world, but they have their niche for sure. Any other comments?
It's really funny. You just never know what's going to come out from this guy, and I hope he's alive forever. Literally, I'm going to be so sad when that day comes, but we'll see.
Absolutely. I think he will live for a very long. Probably
He's going to outlive me.
Yeah, no question about it. Let's move in. Number 4 story on the week hits home for Mr. Wolf, Picard. Season 2 trailer just dropped. Wolf, are you a big fan of Season 1, and what do you think of this little teaser trailer introducing a returning character?
Yeah, Season 1 of Picard was great. It was a little bit more of a modern TV show in that it was a contiguous story, which most Star Treks are not that. They usually have an episode. Yeah, it's like week to week. You never know what you're going to get. But, the first season was awesome. It was very, very intriguing. And even a 90-year-old Jean-Luc Picard was one of my favorite characters in the history of television from a young age. Is rocking it, so he's really good. Most excited that one of my favorite characters from the old Next Generation series, Q, is going to be returning. We've always had a lot of laughs with Q, but also he's an omnipotent being who can create any scenario he wants and anything he wants at any time. So the possibilities are literally limitless. Not to quote a horrible Robert De Niro and Bradley Cooper movie. But, very excited for this. I'll definitely be watching week to week, and it's going to be great. Even if you're not a big fan of Star Trek, it's going to have enough for you.
Yeah, I did not watch the first season, mostly because I do not have, I believe it's Paramount Plus where this airs. I will say, watching the trailer, he looks old, like concerningly old, to the point where I really hope that he does not die, like filming this show, because he seems like he's struggling to get words out at certain points. So I would like to see them wrap this up, hopefully, Season 2 or Season 3. That way he has a definitive end to this story and it's not ended in a different way, not to get too morbid, but he was looking very rough in this. Q looks pretty good, though, I have to say.
My one knock on the trailer is that Q looks older in this, which obviously it's been 30 years since he's been in the television show.
Yeah.
And he was in Breaking Bad. The actor John Delancey, very, very funny, very, very great actor, had a very cool role in Breaking Bad Season 3. But why is he older? Again, I don't like de-aging. I don't want to see that, but I guess they'll probably explain that with one line of dialogue. However, yes, Patrick Stewart, the great, that will be one of the saddest days of my life. What you're talking about when that day comes, I will cry 100%. But yeah, in Season 1, he really does surprise you by how well he actually does keep up with everybody. So hopefully, yeah, as you said, that's not the case, but we'll certainly see.
Indeed, we will. Let's move into the top 3. Number 3, dealing with a Season 3 of Titans. Titans returns, this time exclusively on HBO Max. The new trailer just dropped, and it teases Scarecrow, Red Hood, and yet another take on the Joker. Looks to be adapting the Death in the Family storyline from the comics. Wolf, are you familiar at all, or do you like that storyline from the comics? And what did you think of this trailer? Is it going to get you on board?
Yeah, I'm not familiar with the storyline from the comic books. I haven't really read too many since I was 10, 12 years old. Yeah, 6 or whatever. But this certainly is intriguing. Of course, any take in a Gotham area / Joker / Batman type of thing is always going to pique curiosity. We've heard that the show is not generally as great as it would lead on to have like a third season, but apparently somebody's watching it and they're putting a bunch of money into it. So maybe go back, watch a couple of the episodes at the beginning, see if we can get into it, and then watch Season 3, or maybe just skip it altogether, depending upon how it does. I'm not really sure if I will invest into it, but time will tell, I guess.
Absolutely. I am interested only for the Death in the Family adaptation. I'm always curious to see how these shows do it without Batman, which is a big problem I had with Gotham. Gotham would take very famous graphic novels, comics, like The Killing Joke. It did a slight adaptation, but without it had Bruce Wayne as a kid, but it doesn't really work without Batman. So this Death in the Family does touch on the death of Jason Todd by the hands of the Joker. So it will be very interesting to see if they actually cast a new Joker for this TV series, or if it's just kind of hinted at in the background, in the shadows, which I typically tend to think that a show like this is not going to bring another Joker when we already have Joaquin Phoenix and we already have rumors of, a Joker joining the Batman universe. So we shall see, but it definitely has my interest, mostly because of the Joker stuff. Anytime you start talking Joker, you have my attention. As Leonardo DiCaprio says in Django, you have my curiosity too. Let's move on to number 2. This one I'm really looking forward to. Paul Rudd and Will Ferrell just dropped the trailer for their new miniseries, The Shrink Next Door, where Paul Rudd plays an evil psychiatrist. This is based on true events. Wolf, what did you think of the trailer? And what's Paul Rudd's best performance? Not best movie, best performance.
Gotcha. Yeah. The trailer was certainly not what I expected necessarily. When I hear the names Will Ferrell and Paul Rudd, I think I'm going to be laughing hysterically. This is certainly not going in that direction. It's going to be a little bit more of a dark comedy, it looks like. But definitely going to be watching this. Apple Plus has put out some decent shows, and these two names are two of my favorite comedic actors of all time. As far as Paul Rudd's performance, best performance ever. Oh, man, my brain is going insane right now. It is probably one of the toughest calls to make. I will have to go with Role Models as my favorite Paul Rudd performance, because he basically plays me the entire time, and it just hates everyone, hates everything, but thinks he's better than everyone at the same time. It's probably my favorite line of dialogue in that one. But yeah, this show, I would say, promises to deliver at least some entertainment. So I'll be watching this for sure.
Absolutely. Looks very dark, as you said. So it's going to be an 8-episode series that I love. I'm glad it's not a 2-hour movie in this case because of the talent involved. Whew. It looks like it's going to get pretty weird, which is cool. I don't know how many laughs it's going to have, but with Will Ferrell and Paul Rudd, I always laugh, so I expect it to have some very dark, very sick things happening. The trailer does not give that much away, which I like as well, but it looks like it's going to be a pretty evil turn for Mr. Paul Rudd, which is a very unique role. I can't remember him ever playing a villain. I would say that Anchorman's the closest he gets, just from his cologne. But I would say my favorite Paul Rudd role would be I Love You, Man. I just think he is everything I need him to be in that movie and more.
Yes.
Just a good dude overall.
Right.
And that's where I stand with everything. And let's move into the top story of the week if you're ready.
Let's do it.
So number one story excuse me. So number one story of the week comes to us from Mr. James Gunn, the director of Suicide Squad and Guardians of the Galaxy, has said that he has had meetings with both DC and Marvel on a potential crossover movie between the two studios. Wolf, is this a good or bad idea? And if it does happen, who do you want to see get paired up? Not necessarily who do you think James Gunn wants to see.
Sure. I am all for it at this point. Whatever could make DC look better. I think pairing with Marvel would get them across the finish line possibly on that. So I would certainly be interested in seeing basically anyone paired up. I'll definitely watch it just because of being a fan of all these characters for a long time. My favorite characters in DC are going to be Batman and Superman. It's a very, very like 1A, 1B type of relationship. Superman slightly wins just because I've always liked him the best. But my favorite characters in Marvel would be Thor and Iron Man. So if we were to possibly get those four together, obviously it's like the top heavy hitters. But I don't see any way that could be bad. Yeah. But I'm guessing it'll be some more lower level characters that team up and form, a DC Marvel squad of some kind, and then that's the show idea. But I can dream big at this point. It's still obviously very conceptual, not anything to paper yet. But I would be interested for sure.
Yeah, as of now, I would not be, just because I don't want DC to mess up the MCU. Not that I don't think it could be good. It just sounds messy and complicated. I do, however, think someday that Disney will own DC. I think especially with Warner's and Discovery kind of partnering up, I could potentially see maybe 10, 20 years down the road, Disney buys DC just from a theme park and merchandising scenario. It just makes too much sense. Then, of course, maybe that's when they start to reboot the MCU and they can mix everything together. But yeah, if I could see anyone, I think seeing, of course, Batman and Iron Man, the two billionaires together, would make for an interesting...
the two not superheroes of all of the universes.
Let me be clear. I think it would be a terrible movie idea. It's just something that I personally would want to see. I think if they're going to do this, start with comics. I know they have done some crossover comics, over the years. But if you can't do it in a comic, then don't do it on film. So get some ideas out there first. Then 10 or 20 years, you can start adapting stuff. But
there's also been, obviously video games that have crossed over already, like DC versus Marvel. That's a big kind of like Mortal Kombat type game.
Yeah.
You play as Superman, somebody else plays as Thor, and they fight. Yeah, it's not really realistic because obviously Superman versus Black Widow, we know who would win. But, it could be interesting to see even something like that where it's like a versus. That's just another idea that kind of came up in my head.
Yeah, because it worked out so well for Batman versus Superman.
Yeah, it's the dawn of justice. But, of course, I think the number one thing we need to see is Christian Bale come back and be like, "Where's the kryptonite?" or something like that. So that way we can at least get a little bit of humor out of it. But
hey, that would be great for the video game to have Christian Bale voice all the characters. And
it's all the same.
All the same.
We're just going to do it this way.
Because if anyone knows, Christian Bale has no range. He has never played any other role other than The Dark Knight.
That's right.
Let's move on to something. I was wondering why that was happening. Now I wonder why this is happening. Vin Diesel interested in making not only Dominic Toretto prequels, but also spin-offs about his character after the series ends with number 11. Wolf, why is this happening?
It's just too much, man. I read the article and I'm like, I want to murder the guy who invented de-aging because that's probably what's going to happen if any kind of spin-off like this goes down. I don't know who the younger actor would be to play a younger Vincent Toretto.
Adam Sandler.
Adam Sandler, maybe. I was thinking Billy Zane. He's bald now. 11 movies isn't enough, man. And already one spin-off, Hobbs and Shaw. That's like, what more could you possibly need out of this? And what's going to be after 11? Like, do we need to go back before Fast and the Fast and the Furious, which was the first movie, where all they were Honda driving weirdos who just street raced? Like, what? I don't need to see a prequel of that. Oh yeah, I got this sweet spoiler. Yeah. Oh, cool, Dom. I'll see you later. Like, get out of here, dude.
Yeah.
This one hurt me. Why is this happening? It doesn't need to exist. Stop. Just go away.
He acts like these movies aren't centered on his character. he has to be the most egotistical person in the world at this point. Like, these movies are spin-offs. Like, if you watch the original Fast and the Furious, these are the spin-offs. We are watching the spin-offs.
Right this minute.
And Tokyo Drift took place in the future, so 4, 5, and 6 were the prequels. If you want to think of it in the world of Star Wars. Like, we've seen enough. I know that the Fast and the Furious franchise will never end, and nor should it, because it's a billion-dollar franchise. I think they should just try new things if they're going to continue it, or just reboot the entire thing in a few years, do an all-girl movie, whatever you want to do. Just the Dominic Toretto character has to go away after the 11th movie. That's just too many.
He looks horrible now. Like, his brother's John Cena, one of the most jacked guys in the world, and Dom looks like a middle-aged dad. Like, he's got to take the kids to school in the morning. He hasn't time to work out anymore.
And he still finds a way to call John Cena little brother in the trailer 4 times. Little brother. But yeah, I can't, man. I can't with this guy anymore. I'm really not looking forward to watching this movie next week, which is the first time I can say that. But it's also the first trailer that just looks so bad. Hopefully it's at least entertaining. I do love John Cena, but I like him more in a comedic role. Once again, my prediction is maybe not this movie, but it will end with Cena and Vin Diesel at a barbecue, holding each other or standing next to each other weirdly.
Nothing's better than family.
There you go. One more time for the people
Sorry,
at home.
I mean, you just did a Christian Bale voice, and it got me excited that it's a rare occurrence for you to do one on the podcast, so now me doing it is...
That was my best
just
attempt
had
at
to
a
back it
Vin
up.
Diesel. Vin Diesel's one of the very few people I can't imitate because his voice is just so insane. In general, I am Groot. And last thing on Vin Diesel, I saw that he's going to be starring in Avatar 4 and 5. He posted a... He posted a picture with James Cameron, like ready to take the ride.
Oh man! Oh God! I can't wait for Avatar 4 and 5. Let me tell you, 2020 that'll be in 2054 when Minority Report is a real thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm more excited for him to be an Avatar than Avatar.
Well, yeah, he's going to be a great grandfather in that movie by the time it comes out, so that'll be very interesting.
He actually plays the tree in Avatar from the first movie,
which is very poignant considering his Groot chops. So yeah, well done. Good joke. It's a great joke.
And true story. All right, well, let's get out of this before we both lose our minds over Vin Diesel and all of the wonderful projects he has coming up. Let's move into something that we do enjoy. Loki. So last week, we talked about Loki as a whole and Loki episode 1, and we told everyone, watch it. And we are both in agreement. Still, if you have not watched it, watch it. That's our review of Loki episode 2. Thanks for joining us now. But in all in all seriousness, it's impossible to talk about episode 2 without talking about spoilers at this point. So if you're not caught up and you don't want anything spoiled, stop it here, come back after you watch it. Please go watch it. It's a fantastic show and deserves your time. The TVA at least thinks that anyway. But let's move into our spoiler review and recap of Loki episode 2. Wolf, just as a whole, how did you feel about this episode? And compared to the first episode, do you like where the story is going?
Yeah, no, it's this episode 2, the variant. It dives a little bit deeper into the teaser we were left at the end of episode 1 with Loki hunting himself in some shape or form. We then find out that there are literally thousands upon thousands of Lokis that have existed across the multiverse, which I thought to be one of the funniest little transition moments, him watching himself in little holographic images.
Yeah.
He's got horns in one of them. He's like dressed up like a skateboarder, I think, in one of, like, there's just a ton of little cool little funny quirks about this. And I think that's what's really, really hooking me into this show is the humorous aspect of it. His banter with Owen Wilson's character, Mobius M. Mobius, is to die for, I would say, as far as just the back and forth and them learning more about each other. I think where the show is a little bit lacking is that it is getting a little bit confusing as far as the time referencing. Like, the TVA is this all-powerful, authority as far as time goes, obviously, but there's even still things they don't know. I guess that's where TV shows come from, is a change in the norm, so I get that, but it had me doing the Austin Powers joke of, oh no, I've gone cross-eyed a couple times during this one, just because there were some other things that were introduced. But overall, still funny, still a great show, entertained to death. And the last 20 minutes of this episode were excellent and very suspenseful. So definitely looking forward to the next one.
Would you say this episode was a little worse than the first episode?
I would say by a fraction, but I'm
fraction.
talking about maybe a half a point if I'm grading it 8.5 out of 10 versus a 9 out of 10. The first one, I think, just probably because of the nostalgia of bringing back a character like Loki, who we thought was dead, and obviously it's a Loki that we didn't quite like. Getting him back into the flow, I think, was just a little bit better. But this one, still good, and I think the overall series is going to keep up with this level of ranking, like an 8 or above, I'm guessing, by the time we're done.
Fair enough. Yeah, I'm right there with you. I thought this episode continues very good streak, very similar to episode 1 score-wise. I thought this episode was much better directed. There was some really cool musical choices used that we'll get into in a second. And I just thought there was some really cool shots in the trailer, and the director, I believe it's Kate Herron, she seemed a lot more sure of herself for this episode, whereas the first episode had to spend a lot of time filling people in, especially people who have not seen the movies, which unfortunately these shows have to factor in, which took about 20 or 30 minutes out of that runtime just to catch everybody up to speed. Where this one, it just does its own thing, and I really liked some of the choices that they made. Me and you talked about last week were not. I was hoping that they would do something that we couldn't predict, and that's what we got.
Yes. So
we'll talk about a couple points here, and then we'll kind of wrap this up. But first is the opening scene at the Renaissance Fair, and I love this opening scene. I love the choice of the music playing. I Need a Hero. It's very, very well done. Again, I thought this was Tom Hiddleston at the time doing it, and I was still confused why they weren't showing him. But nonetheless, I thought it was fantastic,
yes.
Leading up to him taking his hostage. But Wolf, any thoughts on this opening scene?
Yeah, it's back in 1985. That was the year I was born, so right away I was like, boom, okay, this is pretty cool. Oshkosh, Wisconsin. Talk about a wonderful place to have a Renaissance fair.
Of course.
I can imagine no better place in the world. And the TVA shows up, and they're out of place, obviously, compared to the other festival goers. But talk about a cool, musical track to have a bunch of people slayed to.
Yeah, I thought it was really cool.
To use a Renaissance vernacular. And we also learn about the bad Loki's power of possession. So he can literally transform himself into another body. Pretty crazy to think about that as a power of Loki, who is the god of mischief. And you can be very mischievous when you're playing another person and they're not expecting it to be anyone but them. So very, very cool opening as well.
Yeah, very similar to his powers from the original Avengers movie. Obviously, he used his staff to...
Yep. And that was the Mind Stone.
Yeah, I guess it was more mind control, but he was still himself, but I guess he, basically everyone was acting on his behalf, but they were still themselves, where this, it seems like it's, like you're saying, a complete possession. And he does, at some point, explain the difference in the two powers, which I thought was cool. Because we have seen a bunch of different stuff, but just overall, I really like the cinematography of this opening, and it was so different than anything we saw last week. So it gives me hopes that this show is going to continue to take chances. One thing I saw the director said that I really liked is she wanted each episode to have a very distinct thing happen and a distinct tone to it. That way, when you're talking about it with people, it's like, oh, that episode where so-and-so. So I really appreciate that. When these episodes don't start to blend together and they're their own unique thing, it makes it much more fun to go back and revisit down the road, too. Let's move on. Two more things I would like to talk about today. Just that Loki finds out that the variant Loki, the evil Loki, is hiding in disasters, or what do they call them? Apocalypses.
Yep.
So I really liked how this kind of took a turn and how he discovered it. What did you think of the way they went back to Pompeii, as well as just this kind of discovery of all these apocalypses?
Yeah, I think the Pompeii scene is by far my favorite because it's definitely the funniest thing we've seen thus far in the series. Basically, they figure out that in an area that's about to be wiped out completely, where all traces of life were destroyed, that the time variances actually don't occur during these events, which... one of my criticisms, like I said, is that the TVA didn't know this already, but they're all knowing for all of time. So how did they not know? That's just me being extremely nitpicky, though, and I kind of hate doing that. But that's one of those parts where I was like, oh, interesting. I guess they have to have a story generated off something. So I was over it very quickly. Loki basically runs around, and we find out that Loki speaks Italian fluently. I thought that was a very nice, funny choice that he could actually communicate with these people in Pompeii. And then, obviously, anything they did to affect the timeline, there wasn't any butterfly effect. There were no variances. Nothing happened because all those people were about to be killed anyway. So very cool that they could uncover that, and very crazy that the evil Loki was able to figure that out before anybody, and that's kind of how he's hiding around, looking at stuff. I may have just given away another big thing, but we're gonna talk about it now. I think. Yeah,
we're in spoilers. We don't need to explain it. People know she is a she. But we still don't know exactly who she is, which is important to realize, too. We're led to believe that this evil Loki is, in fact, a female Loki, which in the comics, that is a thing, female Loki. But I'm not so sure. I've seen some things online that this could potentially be one last red herring, and there is another Loki out there, maybe controlling this person. But we'll see. It seems to me that she has blonde hair, which throws me off a little bit. You would think that a female Loki, like in the comics, does have darker hair like his.
Darker hair. Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I'm not 100% sold that that's who she is. I really do like the apocalypses and them going back to them. They talked and teased potentially going back to Ragnarok, which I understand would be very expensive because then you have to have Hemsworth and Kate Blanchett and potentially the Hulk come back. But I do think that we are going to at some point get a really cool cameo from all of these characters from the other movies. I just think it's set up too perfectly. Now, they may be cute with it and not actually have the actors appear, but I do think that at some point we're going to travel through an event that we've seen in one of these other movies. At least that's what it seems like they're teasing, but I'd be totally okay if they did not do that and it just wants to be its own thing. But I do have a lot more questions than answers at this point. One prediction I do have is that Mobius is going to ride a jet ski at some point, probably in the finale in a very heroic way. I can only hope. But let's just go over this ending of the episode. You mentioned earlier the last 20 minutes are the best. Obviously, we already talked about the reveal of female Loki. But how did you feel about this as far as I'm talking about the Alabama hurricane and their hunt through the looks like a grocery store?
Yeah, no, I liked that the show has alluded to in about 20 or 30 years from now that global warming is certainly going to be a big deal and cause some very catastrophic consequences in that area. And we've already started to see some of the signs of that. So good, respect there. I bet you TV Ron will love that as well when he watches. I thought initially, honestly, when female Loki revealed herself, that my first thought was actually to go to, well, maybe this was Odin's actual daughter with Frigga, and because Thor has blonde hair, she has blonde hair, maybe it's actually a blood relative as opposed to where Loki comes from, which is Laffy over in Idlehouse or whatever, frost giants that live at. Jotunheim, that's right. But yeah, it's very crazy. The female Loki has been stealing all of the reset devices from all these TVA agents that they have killed, or she has killed, and has set off the ultimate bomb of time displacement and causing a lot of fissures in the normal flow of time, which is causing the TVA to panic. And who knows how they're going to handle it. It seemed like a lot of people jumping into portals to go and try to stop more catastrophic things from happening, but very, very action-packed, intense, and suspenseful ending. So that's why I would say it's one of the better endings of a show lately, for sure.
Yeah, again, so we end with Loki chasing after female Loki, so very curious to see if that's going to be just him flat out chasing her. I have a feeling that they are going to connect in some way while they spend time together. I don't foresee them having just like chase and fight scenes between the two of them. It seems like she'll be able to potentially try to get him on her side. And like I said, I do think there is someone above her as this big bad villain that we have not met yet. Maybe it's Loki from the future of some kind, like an older man Loki. I've seen some of that online as well. So really curious to see where they go. And the good part is there's so many directions. I doubt we'll get it right. So that's pretty cool. I always enjoy that. A show keeps me on my toes. Like I said, as long as Mobius rides that jet ski at the end of the season, it will be a 10 out of 10 for me.
Like Kenny Powers, baby, all day long.
Absolutely. But that's all I got for you, Wolf. Any last thoughts on episode 2?
No, can't wait for the next one. If you have not watched Loki yet, hop on board, watch it with us, and we'll look forward to talking about it each week with you.
And just want to give everyone a shout out. We continue to get so much love, support from everybody out there. I know we've gotten some comments from people on Loki. We are holding it. We're going to do a much bigger segment where we go over all of your questions, all your comments. So keep sending them to us. That should be coming in the next week or so. We'll probably do it right at the halfway point, which is episode 3. But that's all I have. If you have anything else, Wolf, I will see you on another time.
I'll see you later.
Bye.
Made for movies.